7 years on, The Witcher 3 Wild Hunt Complete Edition remains as impressive and intimidating as ever, maybe even more so as my free time dwindles. The slightly remastered release for the current-gen consoles provides a few much-needed visual enhancements, performance boosts and gameplay tweaks, but it merely refines a great RPG that still would have held up today without them. That said, I'm not going to turn down an excuse to return to the Northern Kingdoms for a few dozen more hours and re-review it for the site. If you somehow missed it at launch, still ignored it when the role-received expansions arrived, skipped past it during dozens of deep sales since then, or only got into gaming recently, The Witcher 3 Wild Hunt is an open-world RPG with a strong focus on its cast, player choice, and third-person swordplay. It follows Geralt, the titular Witcher, on a quest to find his on-off lover Yennefer and surrogate daughter Ciri amidst the chaos of the war-torn Northern Realms. Given the sheer amount of content on offer in this complete edition, which includes new story arcs and gameplay mechanics introduced in the expansions and updates, you could argue that's a gross simplification. My counter-argument would be the basic gameplay loop was never its greatest strength, and merely serves as an enjoyable foundation. As with the prior games, it built upon and refined established RPG templates, while elevating the storytelling to a level few RPGs have matched since. You'll traverse a massive open world on foot or horseback, tackle hundreds of quests that frequently offer dialogue or choice-driven outcomes, take on contracts to slay rare monsters, follow tracks and investigate clues using Geralt's enhanced Witcher senses, engage in nimble combat against humans and monsters using his iconic meteorite iron or silver swords, earn and assign skill points to one of 5 skill trees, and hoover up level-restricted and quality-tiered equipment, crafting components, and alchemical ingredients. The combat is real-time, reactive, and rewards skill, but level-gated encounters mean striving for bigger numbers is ultimately the name of the game, and more action-oriented gamers hoping for new weapon attacks or combo moves will find it fails to evolve significantly in that regard. Despite dozens of patches to optimize or streamline elements, the inventory, crafting, rune, and alchemy systems still become bloated and unnavigable the more you unlock. Although improved, the menu interface is somehow still sluggish despite the hardware in these new consoles. What I'm ultimately getting at is if you've played any third-person RPG in the last decade, it'll feel instantly familiar, with many of the same strengths and weaknesses. Now that said, there are some novelties and remaster-specific tweaks worth highlighting before discussing its highs and lows. First up, the in-game version of Gwent, a 3-round collectible card game based on stacking 3 combat rows, remains a simple but enjoyable time waster with great music to boot. Unlike the impenetrable, unforgiving, and PvP-focused mess the standalone spin-off has become, it's all about assembling a ridiculously powerful deck as you explore the world, complete quests, and defeat other players. As for the remaster changes, there's a close camera position to match the more modern cinematic look many games have taken to, but more importantly, there's now a quick cast system for science, think simple Witcher magic, that makes the magic build viable. You can simply pull a trigger and tap an associated face button, rather than continuously breaking the flow of combat by navigating selection wheels. Now, what set The Witcher 3 Wild Hunt apart from the competition at the time, especially BioWare's middling Dragon Age Inquisition and Mass Effect Andromeda, is the quality of the writing, complexity of its cast, and legitimately unpredictable outcomes for many of your choices. Despite offering several ending sequences and a few mutually exclusive quest paths, in both the base game and the expansions, it's not the most multi-threaded narrative in video games. Most encounters are self-contained mini-stories, and only a few major decisions impact who will be at your side during key battles. Now what is impressive is how few quests offer simple black or white choices, how weirdly relatable the cast is, and how writing quality manages to both entertain while still grounding the experience. No matter how weird or wild the scenario, the writing combined with expressive voice work makes it easy to appreciate the motivations or beliefs of the cast, even if you're dealing with nobility, mages, or even sentient creatures in a magic-filled fantasy world. Admittedly, this means dialogue and voice work feel too modern and incongruous with the setting. It relies on real-world sensibilities, is constantly cynical, and often self-referential, but that's all part of the charm. Just like the books it's based on, The Witcher 3 Wild Hunt enjoys twisting and perverting cliched fairy tales and fantasy tropes, to ensure there's always a moral quandary, and you can never be sure of the outcome of your choices. Although technology has evolved significantly since 2015 and new visual enhancements can only do so much for the dated character models and animations, The Witcher 3 Wild Hunt Complete Edition still offers up some of the most lifelike and immersive environments to explore. All the regions you visit, be that the compact White Orchard farmland that serves as a prologue, the sprawling Skellige archipelago, or the verdant Toussaint Valley, they're dense with activities, yet still large enough that travelling between each town, ruin, or monster lair feels like a journey through a living and breathing world. It never feels like your traditional BioWare or Bethesda-style world, where hostile nations live within a few kilometers of each other, and major battles are just a few constantly respawning NPCs with some rudimentary scripting. Even if you consider more recent games, despite all the visually spectacular open-world environments we've seen, most are still shallow and artificial canvases, if you just stop moving for a moment and pay attention. Even with dated visuals, The Witcher 3 Wild Hunt uses simple AI routines for wildlife and NPCs, a day-night cycle with striking and vibrant lighting, atmospheric weather effects, and multi-layered ambient audio to keep you immersed in its fantasy world. It's backed up by one of the most enrapturing soundtracks you'll find in a video game, on par with and at times better than anything from Bethesda Game Studios. Even dozens of hours into my playthrough, I'd still routinely ignore the fast travel system to manually ride between destinations, just soaking up the ambience and enjoying the score. Now, I started this piece by calling The Witcher 3 Wild Hunt Complete Edition both impressive and intimidating, so there are some caveats. Although not essential to enjoying the game, I'd argue The Witcher 3 is a richer and more impactful experience if you've read the books and played the prior games. It draws on all of them to flesh out several characters and explain Geralt's many strong relationships, yet offers only a single early quest involving an Neuromancer, think a dream diviner, to cover the basics. If you don't have the time, watching the first season of the Witcher Netflix series is probably a decent introduction to the universe, but I'd stop there as the subsequent seasons and spin-offs deviate more and more from the novels the game uses as a foundation. Another issue, especially for completionists who just can't walk past a quest or map icon, is the ease with which The Witcher 3 will lead you on multi-hour tangents. The problem is actually twofold, as not only are most diversions worthwhile time sinks that distract you from the overarching plot, they're often level-gated with hilarious and immersion-breaking roadblocks. The if you can see it, you can reach it design is incredible for encouraging exploration, but there were too many times I would complete a contract to slay a low-level but massive wyvern, only to be hacked down by 2 high-level bandits in tattered clothing while heading back to claim my reward. Of course, you'll still want to keep pushing forward, as well The Witcher 3 has its fair share of open-world padding, think loot stashes and legendary gear hunts. The bulk of quests offer decent narrative context and entertaining outcomes. That said, you can tweak your settings to remove all but the most important map markers if you want to focus your attention better. Wrapping up, The Witcher 3 Wild Hunt Complete Edition is, at least by modern standards, a fairly traditional open-world RPG, elevated by the epic narrative, compelling characters, plenty of player choice, unpredictable outcomes, and an immersive world begging to be explored. If you're a fan of third-person RPGs from Western developers like BioWare, or any number of third-person action games that have started to incorporate light RPG elements, The Witcher 3 Wild Hunt Complete Edition will not only scratch a similar itch, it'll redefine your expectations for quality storytelling and characterization. Now that said, even without all the content in the Complete Edition, The Witcher 3 Wild Hunt is a big game and requires some background reading and gaming to get the most out of the story. Even when considered in isolation, it demands a considerable amount of time to see and engage with everything on offer. And, as a massive fan that sunk 150 plus hours into the base game and expansions, I'm not sure I'll ever have the fortitude to replay it in its entirety. On the upside, frequent steep discounts make it a low-risk proposition, but if you're short on time, more compact RPGs like the Shadowrun Trilogy, the Mass Effect Legendary Edition, or the Outer Worlds might be a better pick for you. If you've got this far, please consider giving the video a like and maybe subscribing to our channel as it helps us grow.